Welcome everybody to the Morning Update Show. I'm your co-host Trey Holiday, and you guys know we have a great lineup for you today. We got to get right into it, and you guys know I got to throw it on over here to my guy, Big O. Happy Tuesday, Big O.
Man, well, happy Tuesday.
Yeah.
We were celebrating Tuesday. Because the old folks say any day above ground is worth celebrating.
That's right. Second week in the studio, also worth celebrating. You know what I'm saying? As we move right along.
It's coming along.
Yeah.
It's coming along, bit by bit.
Absolutely.
As I always say, do what you can with what you have.
There we go.
And we'll continue to do that. Again, big shout out to everybody watching here in Seattle, also across the Puget Sound area. In Snohomish County and Pierce County. We're getting more viewership there, all the way up in Bellingham, Vancouver, Washington, Pasco, Tri-Cities, Wenatchee. People are reaching out from everywhere. Leavenworth, Spokane, Prosser, Walla Walla. And so we get a lot of feedback. I want to tell you, appreciate you. Also, Portland, Oregon is coming on board. So appreciate you down there in Portland. Want to also remind everybody, tag and share. If you like what you're seeing right here, make sure and share with somebody who might not know about the Morning Update Show. We would definitely appreciate that. And also, a lot of people, if you're watching this on Facebook, this might not be the platform that you prefer. We're also on Twitter, we're on YouTube, we're on Twitch, and also you can go to our website at whereweconverge.com. So a lot of stuff out there. Man, more bad news with the M's. You know what I'm saying? They lost last night, 9-11. Scored a lot of runs though. 9-11 last night with the Angels. They're at 7-17. They're back with the Angels again tonight. But it's like that. My love for the M's isn't going anywhere. And actually, in our Melanin Magic moment here near the end of the show, we got a special clip from way back in 1990.
Amazing. You stay with the M's, baby. That's what I'm talking about. Emerald Pride.
Come on, man. I love this city. I love the M's. Also, I talked to some people from the Thunderbirds yesterday. And I don't care what nobody say, the Thunderbirds got the rawest jerseys of all the Seattle sports teams. So we're gonna have to go get some Thunderbirds gear and be following up with those guys as well. First thing I wanted to get to here is, man, COVID has now become the third leading killer in the United States.
Wow.
So COVID, and we know a lot of those COVID deaths that are out there, it's disproportionately impacting people of color, Black people, Native people. Here's a report right here last night from ABC News talking about the increase in COVID deaths across America.
This morning, COVID-19 is now the third leading cause of death in the U.S., second only to heart disease and cancer. One of the nation's leading health experts warning now is the time to get this under control. Dr. Deborah Birx wishing the U.S. had originally shut down like Italy.
We've learned what Americans were willing to do in combating the virus.
COVID cases at nursing homes skyrocketing, up 80% since early this summer. Long-term care facilities account for more than 40% of coronavirus deaths, despite housing less than 1% of the country's population. The sudden spike fueled by new cases in the South, where the debate over schools is taking a new turn.
This return to campus is not safe. There will be people who will get sick.
At Georgia Tech, dozens protesting the decision to return to campus by staging a die-in. And just 1 week after reopening, the University of North Carolina is backpedaling, switching to remote learning after 130 students contracted the virus.
We have always said that we would respond to the situation as it evolved. The situation has changed, and we believe that taking these actions are necessary at this point.
Elementary schools in the state are also seeing an uptick in cases. This school temporarily shutting down after a cluster was linked to a faculty member. And in New York, ABC's Tom Yamas highlighted new precautions grade schoolers will face in the classroom.
Throughout the year, there's going to be at least 2 windows open. This is across the city, and even in the winter, it's one easy and natural way, they say, they can circulate fresh air.
Tennessee is facing a severe shortage of teachers and support staff. 1,200 vacancies for educated-related jobs. In South Carolina, there are nearly 1,100 vacancies. And now, teachers who quit over safety concerns could be slapped with thousands of dollars in fines for backing out of their contracts.
There's also new trouble at one of the nation's largest fire departments. Chicago's Fire Academy had to close down after an outbreak. They're reporting nearly 300 cases at the department, and 2 Chicago firefighters have died from the virus.
This morning, COVID-19 is now the 3rd leading cause of death in the U.S., second only to heart disease and cancer. One of the nation's leading health experts warning now is the time to get this under control. Dr. Deborah Birx wishing the U.S. had originally shut down like Italy.
We've learned what Americans were willing to do in combating the virus.
COVID cases at nursing homes skyrocketing, up 80% since early this summer. Long-term care facilities account for more than 40% of coronavirus deaths, despite housing less than 1% of the country's population. The sudden spike fueled by new cases in the South, where the debate over schools is taking a new turn.
This return to campus is not safe. There will be people who will get sick.
At Georgia Tech, dozens protesting the decision to return to campus by staging a die-in. And just 1 week after reopening, the University of North Carolina is backpedaling, switching to remote learning after 130 students contracted the virus.
We have always said that we would respond to the situation as it evolved. The situation has changed, and we believe that taking these actions are necessary at this point.
Elementary schools in the state are also seeing an uptick in cases. This school temporarily shutting down after a cluster was linked to a faculty member. And in New York, ABC's Tom Yamas highlighted new precautions grade schoolers will face in the classroom.
Throughout the year, there's going to be at least 2 windows open. This is across the city, and even in the winter, it's one easy and natural way they say they can circulate fresh air.
Tennessee is facing a severe shortage of teachers and support staff. 1,200 vacancies for educated-related jobs. In South Carolina, there are nearly 1,100 vacancies. And now, teachers who quit over safety concerns could be slapped with thousands of dollars in fines for backing out of their contracts.
There's also new trouble at one of the nation's largest fire departments. Chicago's Fire Academy had to close down after an outbreak. They're reporting nearly 300 cases at the department, and 2 Chicago firefighters have died from the virus.
This morning, COVID-19 is now the 3rd leading cause of death in the U.S., second only to heart disease and cancer. One of the nation's leading health experts warning now is the time to get this under control. Dr. Deborah Birx wishing the U.S. had originally shut down like Italy.
Hi, everybody. As you guys can see this morning, we're having a little bit of difficulty with our technology today. We want to make sure that we bring you guys a high quality product that we are now known for. So just give us a second while we work on our network issues. Please stay tuned. We'll be right back, you guys. Well, thank you guys so much for sticking with us through our technical difficulties. You guys are now back with the morning update show, and we're going to continue on, you know?
It's the nature of live TV.
Yeah,
whether
that's
it's the internet, whether it's satellite, whether it's, I've been in TV my whole career.
Right,
You know what I'm
right.
saying? Stuff happens. It's not really what happens, it's how you rebound.
That's
so
right.
anyways, we're going to keep it moving forward. The clip here from ABC, some of you guys saw the full one, some of you saw amended, but basically COVID is now the third leading cause of deaths in the United States of America. Serious business, and you know, it's a very polarizing issue as well when we talk about what's going on with COVID.
Yeah, absolutely. We see how political this entire pandemic has gotten from the top on down. You know what I mean? Literally, people saying that they have to fill the voids locally because it's not coming from the top level. Federally, a lot of governors have been filling the voids that they felt should be coming from the president.
Well, yeah, I mean, everything is just different in every state, and so we're kind of finding out right now. In a lot of states early on, it wasn't getting hit by COVID because COVID predominantly hit a lot of the bigger cities. You know, we know like New York and New York City got hit big, a lot of other bigger cities. A lot of states were like, man, it's not really our issue, but now it's kind of made its way out there. It's become an issue for them. So,
Absolutely.
moving along here to elections, and speaking of elections, we have a segment in a bit with Julie Wise. I sat down with Julie Wise, Director of King County Elections. But King 5 yesterday, they talked to Kim Wyman, who's the Secretary of State, and talked about election and election security. We'll play that clip.
Washington State has had mail-in voting since 2005. It became mail-in only in 2011. And today the Secretary of State's office says on average, it's about 50-50, the number of ballots returned through the mail compared to one of those elections drop boxes. This past presidential primary saw a relatively high voter turnout, with 1.3 million ballots submitted by mail compared to about 979,000 voters submitting a ballot in person at an elections drop box.
We are expecting really record-breaking turnout in November.
Washington Secretary of State Kim Wyman is in charge of processing the election's results.
Counties have really focused on trying to have the accountability they need. They can account now for every ballot that's received.
That includes election ballots that have a unique envelope and barcode so they can be efficiently processed. Washington State has pretty much got mail-in voting down. But for those states that may be trying it for the first time, Wyman has some advice.
One of the ways that Washington has been kind of ahead of this curve is that we have a very robust signature checking process. Human eyes are looking at those signatures and verifying them. Our model really works well, and we certainly have tried to help other states get there so that they can have it.
Does your office have a plan if the system breaks down or there are any issues this year?
We have contingencies. So we have continuity of operation plans in case we have a flood or a fire or an earthquake or a pandemic. If the Postal Service has some delays or problems, we have some backup plans for that as well.
Washington State has had mail-in voting since 2005. It became mail-in only in 2011. And today the Secretary of State's office says on average.
All right. So like I said, I was able to speak with Julie Wise. I want to talk about what's going on here. King County elections. They were on. You said you saw me last night.
I saw you on Axios. It was so cool. Dropping off your ballot, because apparently Washington State is above, so progressive when it comes to mail-in ballots. Like, everybody's now looking at us as a model.
Washington State's definitely a leader in it. And I talked to Julie Wise about how secure the voting is, and with all the stuff about the United States Postal Service and what's going on there in the news. Wanted to see what King County elections position was. Here's my interview here with Julie Wise, Director of Elections for King County.
What a great question. I think one thing that's really important to emphasize is that vote by mail is a secure, accurate, and accessible and proven voting system that this country has used for 150 years. So I'd love to first start with that. Vote by mail is a great system. We've seen that here in Washington State. We've seen that in our neighbors in the South and Oregon, that this is a really great system that, again, balances the security with accessibility. Absolutely, voters should feel confident going into this election. There's been a lot of concerns around the United States Postal Service. And of course, we depend really heavily on that partnership as being a vote by mail elections office for the last decade. What I can say is that We have a really solid partnership with the United States Postal Service, one that we've cultivated for the last 10 years. We meet with them regularly. So I think one thing that's really important for voters to know is that we are, of course, looking and going to continue to monitor USPS delivery times, and we can bump up our mail out of ballots. Those already go out about 3 weeks before Election Day. And they go out, in fact, 45 days before Election Day for our military, overseas, and out-of-state voters. But if for some reason a voter doesn't get their ballot or they lose it during those 3 weeks before Election Day, no fear. Here in Washington State, it's as simple as jumping online and printing off your ballot, and then you can vote that, sign it, get it into one of our drop boxes, or return it to the United States Postal Service. Another great thing in Washington and here in King County, we have 450 ballot drop boxes across the state, 70 here in King County that provide 96% of our voters with a drop box within a 3-mile radius of their home. But I've got to encourage people, we've got to encourage everyone, our friends, our family, and our community to vote early. I'm making it a personal goal to tell everyone that I know, let's get our ballots in by October 30th. No need to wait till November 4th.
All right, and now if people want to get up with King County elections, if they want to reach out, questions, things like that, how can they reach your office?
Great. I will just make a quick plug that we are hiring. We are hiring over 350 employees. We pay our employees, our temporary staff, to come and help us run this election. It's how I started out at the elections office. I started out as a temporary employee. So I encourage people that are interested in the process, want to help. We've got right at kingcounty.gov. You can go right there and look at the job announcements and apply right online for that. And in fact, next week we're hosting a virtual hiring event. And we got more information on our social media accounts around that. Our social media accounts are KC Elections. And then you can always call 206-296-VOTE. Give us a call. We've got a great team ready and prepared to answer your calls. There's no menu. You get directly to a person. Let us help you find answers to your questions, or if you're going to be out of town or anything like that and want to make sure that you get your ballot in time, give us a call now and let's get that all worked out, update your address, all those things, and get ready in preparation for this election.
All right, thank you so much. Thank you for taking the time. And yeah, everybody get out, vote early, make it happen. All right, so you heard it right there from Julie Wise, King County Elections. She's a director over there. She also said they're hiring. So the 300 people, man, everybody looking for it. Times is hard right now. You know what I'm saying? Going out, hit up King County Elections. Looks like they're hiring about 300 people there, temporary work. But most importantly, what she's saying is like, yo, vote early.
Yeah, I love that she put that message out there, because I don't think that everybody even knows that that's an option, right? And so sometimes people are just looking at the date, even me. So I'm glad that she said that, because that was a good note for me to take in. Oh.
Yeah, the only thing I would say is like Seattle is known for, some of the districts at least, for a last minute decision. So I'm sure there's going to be a rush the day of. And you know, speaking of elected officials, you know, in an upcoming segment here, you know, we asked a lot of the city council members who in the Black community they've been talking to. Not everybody got back to us. I think we have five out of 9 that got back to us. So we'll be bringing that up in the next segment. Next up here, there's an occupation that's going on that a lot of people in Seattle probably aren't even aware of. You know, we hear occupation up there at on Broadway at Cal Anderson Park, which is also going on right now. But Omari Taher and his group is occupying the entrance to the Northwest African American Museum. We've checked in with them now, I guess, over the last month. They've been there over a month now, maybe like 6 weeks. Their beef is that the NAM, the Northwest African American Museum, they don't feel that it's reaching its potential as to how it could serve the community. And so they're basically occupying the entrance there with the hopes of them taking over the facility and creating what they consider a world-class museum in the space. Clearly, NAM and the Urban League feel a bit differently about that. Urban League is the one, I believe, who owns the building. He says they don't. That's a whole nother story. But anyways, here's Omari Taher. We checked in with him regarding his occupation over there at the Northwest African American Museum. We did see since the last time we've been here that the Urban League and the building have released a statement saying that they're trying to, I guess, work with you and your organization for a resolution. Can you update us from your end as to what's been going on?
Yeah, well, they talked to my younger brother, Fred Garrett, and they're supposed to be giving him a letter to me, for me, and we're really interested in negotiating, getting the key, you know, and getting possession of the building so we can make it what it's supposed to be, you know. So our young people have a place to come to learn their culture and their history so they'll stop shooting each other, because we got too many young people that is killing each other. We got 2 cousins just last month, you know, that's in the facts that got murdered. So we got young people getting murdered because I coached Little League for 40 years. We have them from 7 to 12, but after 12, we lose track of them when we see them again at 16. What happened to you? But when we got control of them from 7 to 12, if we had a facility like this where we could move into art and music, whatever they want to do, because everybody don't want to play sports. And everybody's not big enough or fast enough to play sports. But it's easier to be a lawyer or a doctor or a artist, anything, than it is to be a professional athlete. Because guess what? If you're not 7 foot tall, forget about basketball. And if you don't have a high pain threshold for football, forget about football. So all we try to do is help young people move forward in whatever career skill they want, but we don't have no institution that does that.
Right. Now, the NAM put out a statement, and the statement, they listed a long list of accomplishments from their end, as well as community members that they feel that they've brought into the process inclusively. And their position is this is a very much a world-class facility right here, and which is directly opposite of what you're saying.
Have you been to Nordic Heritage Museum?
In Ballard?
Seattle Art Museum? Seattle Art Museum? Hey, go to the African American Museum in Washington, D.C. Go to the Charles H. Wright Museum in Detroit. Go to the museum in Houston, Dallas. All of them is world-class museums. This one room with computers in it for genealogy. Walk down the hallway and see some posters, and then you go into the meeting room, which is the old gym. Is that a museum?
So yeah, Omari Tahir.
Yeah.
And the same, was it 23 years ago?
23 years ago.
That Omari Tahir occupied that very same, it was the longest occupation of a public building in U.S. history. That same building right there, and it was Omari Tahir who occupied that building. Him and his group occupied that building, the longest occupation of a public building in America. And they're out there occupying the front right now.
Yeah, I mean, one of the things that I've learned so much about the story, all of the history there, and I encourage people, you know, to read up. There's a lot of articles that were written at the time of the original occupation of the building to really understand some of the community dynamics around this space. And I've just really learned a lot about it, things that I didn't know, you know, was going on in my community around me. And, you know, he, right there on Juneteenth, Omari said, look, I'm occupying it again because it still isn't what we were fighting for back then. So he and his group have been there since Juneteenth of this year. So once again, just showing, you know, community solidarity. When people have an idea in their minds, there is a way to kind of fight institutions to try to showcase a community perspective.
Right, but to be fair, Omari and his group clearly don't speak for the whole community, because
True.
you have the Urban League and NAM itself and their supporters as well, who don't want them to occupy the space. They released a statement saying that they very much feel that it is a world-class museum or facility there. And they said that they were going to be working with, I think they refer to them as the trespassers. They said they're going to be working to communicate an amicable resolution here around this issue. I would say this though, is that, people talk about occupations, and we've seen a few happen here in Seattle. I would tell the Urban League and NAM is that, Omari Tahir was a real deal occupier.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying? Anybody can occupy a building for 10 years. So I don't know how those conversations are going or how they're going to figure it out, but clearly he's serious about being there.
Yeah, absolutely. And that's my point, right? Is that if you don't agree with something, there's a way to do that in community. And that's what I've seen, like even going up there, we had Marcus, who was part of CHOP and doing the gardening down there. Now he's doing a garden up there. I mean, the thing is that, when you have certain spaces and certain ideals out there, hey, either people can jump on board or point the finger and say, we don't agree. But the point is that the opinions are out there for people to understand, learn from, you know what I mean? And that to me is part of the democratic process.
All right. Well, let's see what happens.
Right.
We reached out. I think that we're supposed to be talking to some people from NAM, and also some people from the Urban League later on this week.
Great.
And so we can see their position. We've talked to Omari Tahir 3 times, and so we've kind of been in communication with Urban League and NAM, because we definitely want to be able to hear their point of view. One of the things we talk about, and even when we talk about the response from the council members here, in our next segment, is that this Black community is definitely not a monolith.
That's
There's lots of different opinions that are out there. Speaking of opinions, on Friday, King County Equity Now, they had their press conference. We were going to air this yesterday, but we ran out of time. And basically, they had a press conference talking about the retirement of Chief Carmen Best, and also some of their plans moving forward around the issues of police and police budget. Here's a short montage of some of the different speakers at the King County Equity Now press conference that occurred on Friday.
At the end of the day, policing has to end for a community to be resourced the way that it is. Policing will have to change, and Chief Best's retirement, one that was of her volition, is something that, although we don't get to see many Black women in positions of power, it needs to happen so that we can see the real goal that moving past policing is what community needs.
First of all, I want to echo what Sade said about the individual changes. We don't want to belittle the work that former Chief Carmen Best did, but we also don't want to focus on the individual changes. As we well know, before the current administration in Washington, we had an African-American president who is doing great things. However, we're still struggling with a lot of these societal ills that have been hurting our communities and our people for centuries. So we know one person helps, but we need to change the whole structure.
This is a journey that did not end with the Civil Rights Act in 1968. It didn't end with the LA riots in 1992. It didn't end with the murder of Mike Brown in 2014. And it still continues today as we protest and riot in the aftermath of the murder of George Floyd and so many others in our community who have died at the hands of law enforcement. Now, I'd also want to say, as a community, it is imperative that we begin to honor the prophetic voices of King County Equity Now and Decriminalize Seattle, instead of vilifying them for their willingness to envision what is possible.
I'm here first and foremost, and just personally want to say to Carmen Best, I want to say to you that you did well in your achievements and your accomplishments, particularly for Black women, to see what they can occur if they want to join law enforcement. From what I've seen and what we've grown up to see, that what it takes and the sacrifices to go through institutions and make it that far, to have that level of positional power, that is a huge accomplishment. And it is historic as a first Black woman. So I just want to say that I honor you. And that this day today is not about one individual. This is about policing institutions across our lands.
We know that those closest to the problems are closest to the solutions. Those who have been harmed by policing have specific wisdom, expertise, and leadership needed to explore what would create true community health and safety. Having community decide how to spend part of the city budget isn't new. It's important to recognize that we have already done this kind of thing before in Seattle. And this year, our research will be piloting a way to do this in a way that centers the expertise of BIPOC community priorities.
All right, so Triana, you're a part of King County Equity now. But what I got from this press conference is that a bit of a separation between here's Carmen Best, this black woman, and here's Chief Best, the head of policing, because it seems like quite a few people spoke to her humanity as this black woman, her accomplishment in her career, and then they also spoke in a more formal sense as chief of police.
Right, right. And this is something that I think is not just happening here in Seattle, but this discussion is happening across the nation with regarding defunding the police. And I think what King County Equity now is really positioning itself to say is that it wasn't about Chief Best personally. It's not about that. Really what it is about understanding the history of policing and how community response teams can do a lot of that work and bring a lot of that pressure off of the police force. And again, we understand that there's going to need to be a response team that responds, that has guns, that has the weapons, that comes with that force, but that doesn't need to be the force for every call. And I think that these are the kinds of understandings that I'm beginning to see happen across the nation. I'm loving that because the awakening of people understanding it's not about attacking any one police officer, any one police department. It's really about understanding the history of policing and how we can move some of those resources into communities' hands and take it away from some of the militarization that has happened. So I think that it makes me happy that some of that discussion is coming to the surface.
All right, and like we like to say, black community, definitely not a monolith. Can we put this clip up here from the Seattle Times, Oya? So what we got right here is kind of the opposite reaction. We got this Victoria Beach right here. There's an article that's in the Times. It says, amid shock of Chief Carmen Best's departure, Black Seattleites weigh city's moves on police defunding. So there's a whole nother group that's out there. There's Victoria Beach. We know Nicole Bascom, the real estate agent, the late Paul Bascom's daughter. There's other voices in the community that are not happy about Chief Best's retirement, not happy about the way things played out there at City Hall. Totally agree that there needs to be some changes in policing, but they don't necessarily feel that this is the route about it. So always want to bring some balance to the conversation. We see with KCEN right there. That article you can find right there in the Seattle Times. Also has different voices that are out there.
Yeah, you got to show all sides. And I think even when the news came out, even for me, I voiced it here on the show that I was really looking forward to doing the reimagining and reforming policing with Chief Carmen Best. Again, echoing Amaja's statements, seeing a black woman make it to such a high position of authority in our city was just amazing. It was huge. So again, I really echo Amaja's statements there that, again, shout out to Chief Carmen Best and to what she showcased was possible right here in our Emerald City.
Yeah, it was interesting time here. The city of population 7% black is what they're saying right now. Black police chief, also black fire chief, Chief Scoggins. And we'll be interesting. Reach out to the Seattle Police Department. Be interesting to talk to incoming Chief Adrienne Diaz. As to is he on board with the reimagining that Chief Best had rolled out here into the city? I know that, of course, Chief Diaz and Chief Best very close as a deputy chief. And a lot of the points, I remember we did a show on that a lot of the points that Chief Best had pointed out in her reimagination matched up with a lot of the things that the community was actually looking for as well. So you never know. Chief Best might be gone, or not yet, September 2nd, but she might be on her way out, but you never know. Some of the things of her ideas of reimagination of policing here might be things that actually live on. And we'll see how the relationship is with Chief Diaz, the city council, community groups like King County Equity Now, and D-Crime, and all these other players. So I guess we just have to see what happens.
Right. Another thing that we got to keep our finger on the pulse of. Definitely.
Yeah. Speaking of finger on the pulse. All right. So we made a call out to the city council last week, and we said we wanted to know who you talking to in the black community. And It's not for Omari or for Treyana, it's for we the people. We want to know, especially people in our community, but people across the city of Seattle as a whole. If this is this moment of time, if we are at this precipice right now, we're going to make dynamic and sustainable changes that are going to forever impact the Black community and put them on a trajectory of greatness in the city. It's important to know who the city council is talking to about that. We're going to take a short break right now. When we come back, we're going to go over some of the replies that we got from some of the Seattle City Council members. You are watching the Morning Update Show.
There's a lot going on. Are you ready? Ready to feel better, look better, be better? Drink water. Be ready for a pickup game. Insta-frame to work hard towards your aim. Drink water. Hydrate. Hydrate to invest in yourself. Cut down on sugar. Invest in your health. Imagine the possibilities and reach your potential. Who knows what's next? Be ready. Be hydrated.
Do you want to represent your city? Now you can. The City of Seattle's Democracy Voucher Program is now open. Candidates interested in using democracy vouchers to help finance their campaign for 2021 may begin qualifying now. In 2021, the mayor, city attorney, and the 2 city council at-large positions will be on the ballot. The Democracy Voucher Program has $6.8 million available for local candidates to fund their campaigns. Running a competitive campaign can be costly, and access to funding can serve as a barrier to entry for potential candidates. The Seattle Ethics and Elections Commission is offering one-on-one trainings for potential candidates who want to explore how to access the democracy vouchers. Interested candidates can contact the Democracy Voucher Program at 206-727-8855 or email democracyvoucher@seattle.gov. For more information, you can also visit seattle.gov/democracyvoucher.
All right, we're back. The Morning Update Show. It's the moment of truth we've all been waiting for, huh?
This has been a real build-up, man. But at the end of the day, I'm happy that some council members got back to us so that we can actually bring this to the people.
Right, and in all fairness, so we heard back from 5 council members. We heard back from Council Member Lewis, Morales, Mosqueda, Peterson, and Strauss. And there's 4 that we did not hear back from: Juarez, Sawant, Gonzalez, and Herbold. And I will say that, they're city council members. They get lots of emails, lots of correspondence, lots of media requests. So, it's kind of is what it is. But let's jump right into this, right? So the first email that we got back is from Councilmember Lewis, right? This is Councilmember Andrew Lewis. And so we talk about who's in the room and who's not in the room. And so for Councilmember Lewis, he says talk to Dominique, that's Coach Dom, right?
Mm-hmm.
Community passageways, youth leaders from the Everyday March, at home and in follow-up meetings, Sheree Lascelles, People of Color, Sex Workers Outreach Project, Green Light Project, and Hygiene Hustle. Roshan Bliss, Denver Justice Project, Public Safety Town Hall, Decriminalize Seattle, both during council and in separate meetings. Andre Taylor, and Not This Time, and attended meetings. And Sean Good from Choose 180. It could bring us back up. So this is who Andrew Lewis, Councilmember Lewis has been speaking to in the community, and yeah, this is his list right here.
Yeah. I mean, once somebody puts it out there, what can you do but accept what they've been doing, right? At least they're talking to someone.
Yeah. Oh, I'm sorry. Can you bring that back up? Lewis? Yeah, Lewis. Gotcha. We left something out here on the bottom. It says, additionally, I highly value input of my staff who have met with the following Black leaders and organizations since May 30th on my behalf. It says King Garrett of Africatown and Diane Ferguson of the Central Area Senior Center, right? And so this is the news show, not the opinion show. Right. I do have an opinion show there where we do it with Marcus Harrison Green of the South Seattle Emerald. But I can say right here, what I don't see on here is I don't see like business owners. You know, I met with Teddy from Island Soul, or I met with Louis Rudd from Ezell's, or also I don't see like a parents group. I met with 100 parents. I met with, you know, but you never know. I sent this a few days ago. And, you know, we're just talking about it right now. But I think that all the city council members should want to be able to talk to, get a holistic picture. So it's not like, when we read these emails, you will find there's a consistent group of people that are in the room. And that's exactly what they do. They're special interest groups, and they're lobbying, basically. We got DCRIM, we got King County Equity Now, we got Black Lives Matter, Seattle King County, all of these guys, and they're out there. So their voices are present, and it's interesting to see, though, whose voices are not present. You know, is somebody who really gets beat up in this city are the Black construction workers. They get bamboozled every time. It would be good to see. I mean, as you know, all this construction boom going on in Seattle, at least pre-COVID, and the Black construction workers aren't getting any jobs.
Right.
So that's another group. I mean, because when we talk about the income gap is a big problem in this city. Home ownership is a big problem in this city, as well as education. I mean, construction, a lot of money that's there. Black construction workers aren't working. So anyways, this is Councilmember Lewis. All right. Next up, we have Councilmember Morales. We can put Morales up. So Tammy Morales, she broke it down here into several different categories. So we'll start here, land acquisition. She said that she's met with Africatown, Gathering Roots Retreat and Wellness Center, Community Passageways, South Core, Creative Justice, Rainier Beach Action Coalition. Around the Seattle Police Department and protests that are occurring, King County Equity Now, Decriminalize Seattle, Rainier Beach Action Coalition, and the Everyday Marchers. Around Black-owned businesses and economic development, she said that she's talked to Rainier Valley Community Development Fund, Queen Care, Jacob Willard Home, Got Green, and CDCPDA and Urban League pre-apprenticeships. And that's Hayward Evans, Eddie Rye, and Reverend Willis. Around youth rights and supports, she's talked to Community Passageways, the Office of King County. She talked to Councilmember Gurmai Zahala. He said that yesterday, that they've been in communication. Creative Justice, King County Equity Now, Choose 180, and the Rainier Beach Action Coalition. So these are all the people thus far, at least up until a few days ago, that Councilmember Morales has been talking to in the Black community. How do you feel about this?
Well, you know what? I mean, I feel like she hit the ground running. And I'll say this, when you have, you know, workings with these people, when you have interactions, and we did our candidate forum, and that was my first encounter with her. But I feel like as soon as she got the position, she just hit the ground running. Like, let me talk, let me embed myself in community, let me understand the needs of my district, let me understand what my people need. And that, to me, I appreciate that, right? I appreciate that as a citizen. I appreciate the outreach and really actually getting to know these groups, because it's not just about one-off conversations with these groups. It's about understanding the goals and the visions of these groups and how your office in particular can help make that happen. So I think that to this list, I mean, very comprehensive. I think it seems like she's doing that.
I think that the difference is as well too, and we'll get to the rest of the list that are here. The difference is that she has Black people, a concentration of Black people that live in her district, right? Yeah. Isn't Morales?
She's
That's South Seattle. Yep. And so it very well might be as well that a lot of these groups and organizations are people that she was engaging with while even running for her seat. Yeah. And has continued to engage in, as opposed to a council person who, you know, there's no black people really, or very small black population in their district. And like you said, Morales hit the ground running because she really never stopped running.
Right.
And as far as these relationships goes, it's pretty broken down. You know, I'd like to see some other stuff. I'll make a comment on that.
Always going hardcore. One thing I will say too is that during the candidate forum, she actually said that she was going to be doing this kind of work. Like she was going to be reaching out. She was going to be doing that. So again, I think I just got to congratulate you and thank you for asking these questions so that even me personally, I can be informed about what these council members are doing. I think it's so important for our people to understand.
I think the other thing, well, two things, Trina. My mama always says, if you don't ask, you know what I'm saying? You ain't going to tell. You gotta ask for what you want. This isn't, you know, crazy information. You know, this is information that we as community stakeholders want to know. Like who is influencing their policy that's being created down there in City Hall. I think that it would be good for people, and I haven't seen this yet on any of these lists, it'd be good for people to talk to, like, you know, with the PTA at Garfield, the PTA at Rainier Beach. It'd be good to talk to these school principals, you know what I'm saying? It'd be good to talk to individual business owners. What's that, Cherry Street, is it Cherry Street Cafe? You know, that's a new black business that just opened up there on Cherry Street. You know, how's it going for them? You got Christy Brown, who's been impacted right now, you know, with COVID, trying to open her restaurant there, Communion on Union. It'd be good to talk to the Picketts, Devon Pickett, and Kiana Pickett down there, who own the Postman, and talk to actual businesses and business owners. That kind of takes, like I said, walking the street. You got somebody like Lewis Rudd, who's like, you know, that's the dean when you really talk about it. I mean, Ezell's is 36 years old, 37 years old, started right there on 23rd and Jefferson. They've got about 20 locations all across the state of Washington. They just opened one in Oregon. That's somebody who, like, I mean, you could sit there and talk to Lewis Rudd for hours. Lewis, if you go back through his records, he told me this was 2-3 years ago, has employed over 5,000 people through the history, you know, throughout Ezell's and everything else. It'd be interesting for them to talk to people like a Carlos Imani, people who are in the art scene over here, who's a business owner who's been impacted, or how can they get more business and everything else. The reason why I'm harping on business and things is because that gap, that $42,500 that black people make and the $105,000 that white people make. I'm glad they're making $105,000, by the way. I just want black people to be, you know what I'm saying? I don't want anybody's income to go down. I just want black people's income to go up. I mean, and these are the key things that I'm talking about right here. When people talk about land and land acquisition, this is good. They're talking to organizations. It'd be good to talk to somebody like Nicole Bascom, you know what I'm saying? Kiana Barfield, talk to Kay Cole. These are all black people and black women, by the way, who are out there in the commercial space. So there's a difference when we talk to organizations that do great work, and there's other difference that we talk to business owners who are out there building, acquiring land, and everything else. So it'd be good for people to talk to, you know, black developers. What's Jebediah Gardner? Talk to, you know, Jebediah. They're putting up apartment buildings everywhere. Rocal Timmons. Yeah. You know, she's out part of a very big operation out there in the Landing, but you know, has some kind of insight. She comes from the community. Bought her first home when she was 19 years old. There's a lot of other voices, I think, that sit outside of organizations, and the organizations are at the table. We're going to continue reading this, and that's great. And I'm not saying they shouldn't be there and anything else. But, you know, when we talk about education, and it's great, and I know King County Equity now, Amijah sits in your organization. She's a master, you know, as far as education and issues with black people, but she represents one part. Let's talk to the principal. Let's talk to some of the school teachers. What are some of the issues? Because black kids are failing in Seattle public schools. I want to see if a city council member has talked to. Have you talked to the teachers? Have you talked to these guys? Have you talked to the school board directors that represent this district? I know that Hersey represents the South End. DeWolf represents the Central District. I believe it's DeWolf in the Central District. Are you talking to school board directors as far as what's going on there? These things, why I'm bringing this up is, like I said, for me, big things, income gap, property ownership, which leads to generational wealth, and education. And I just feel it's always good to be able to talk to the man or woman on person on the street.
Yeah, I agree with you wholeheartedly here. I do know that Councilmember Morales does have some just Black-owned businesses here, which which already showcases a little bit of that. But you're right in terms of going deeper, and I think that is also an element.
I haven't seen Morales. I see. Can you put Morales back up?
Yeah, Queen Care and Jacob Willard Home.
So which one of these, and this is important because it's important, are people talking to organizations, or are you talking to a real entrepreneur, small business owners on the street? They're struggling with profit and loss. COVID is kicking their butt. They can barely keep their doors open. Or are these the people we're talking to, or are we talking to advocacy groups?
No, see, Queen Care is one of those, right? And just like it's a small Black business, once again.
We did something on her.
Exactly.
With the Emerald. Exactly.
So what I'm saying is that that's at least one showcasing of it. But what I was going to say was that you're absolutely right in terms of this is an opportunity for anybody who's representing any district or any set of people to really plug into those people. At the end of the day, that's what you're saying. When you walk the beat, when you walk your neighborhood, your community, and the business owners, the educators, the people who are involved, not only in organizations, but doing things individually, you're really embedding yourself in the community, and you're able to actually build those relationships with these people that you're addressing, they should be speaking with. You're able to build those relationships so that, again, it's not a one-off. It's not you coming to a constituent and when there's an issue and you need them to fill out a survey, or you're trying to get some data, or you're trying to get an answer from them. It's also like, hey, just checking in on you because I check in on you regularly. And that way you're more plugged in to the people in the community. I agree.
When Seattle had was citywide, that was an obligation. See, because you ran citywide. Now that there's districts, there's only 2 citywide seats. Here's kind of like how I see it. So a council member like Morales and a council member like Sawant, who we did not hear back from, they've got an advantage. The Black people are in their district. Yeah. So, they already have a pre-existing relationship kind of one way or another with everybody. So at least they're on the ground. There's 7 other council members that they've really got to be able to roll up their, because they can't just vote along with something and not saying that they really, did their due. This is supposed to be a special moment in Seattle, the big moment in Seattle. So, you can't go by proxy just because other council members say it's cool or whatever. There's so many resources out there, so many business in business, in home ownership, and in education that's out there. And I think that we'll find, as we keep reading here, that of course Morales, long list, I'm sure it probably could even be even longer. They probably summarized it for us here. We'll find that other council members, not so long. Mm-hmm. This isn't their district. It's okay to say that. Hey man, this is my district. And to be honest with you, before May, a lot of stuff I wasn't really thinking about the CD or the South End. Right. It's okay to say that. But by the way, here's my plan to hear more of these voices that are out there, because we know that this Black community isn't monolithic. Let's move on here to, this is, who's next up here? Mosqueda.
Mosqueda.
All right. You say it perfectly too. Oh yeah. Mosqueda. All right. So I'll just jump into, hers is put together more like a letter. These responses reflect conversations our offices had. We know various council offices had conversations with other organizations. Since May 30th, our office has worked primarily with the coalitions Decriminalize Seattle and King County Equity Now. As you know, both KCEN and Decriminalize Seattle as coalitions have gathered support of hundreds of organizations around the community demands. The key organizations in King County Equity Now are all Black-led, and the key organizations that make up Decriminalize Seattle are multiracial with Black leadership in the group. We also recognize that no Seattle elected official is Black, and that the Black community cannot be represented by 1, 2, or 10 organizations. With that information, instead of having elected officials decide who's going to be at the table, Council just voted to put $3 million towards community-led research that will inform a participatory budget process focused on community safety and health run by Black community members. This will help set funding priorities moving forward and inform how we restructure our approach to public safety in the city. The conversation is intended to be inclusive of diverse voices. Once council comes back from recess, we'll be meeting with many folks who want to engage in a longer-term conversation about budget changes that promote public safety. And that's from Council Member Mosqueda's
Mosqueda
office. See, she hits it right on over. So, I mean, the council member here is very clear. And like I said, it's a lot of the same people that are in here, King County Equity Now, Decrum Seattle, and that's exactly what it's supposed to. That's what the organization is you're part of. You're supposed to lobby, get in front of people's faces in the best way and present information. What I don't see here is, like I said, is that those are big coalitions, KCN, Decrim, and everything else. What I don't see is, like, you know, I mean, man, where's the parents' organizations? Like I said, where's the Black construction work? I mean, the thing is, special interest is special interest. So, you know, I mean, and clearly people who know how to lobby and organize, they know how the system works. A lot of people in our community, you know, they're not professionals at that, and getting down to City Hall, that doesn't make their voice less relevant. I would really like to see more of, you know, I've created a business roundtable of entrepreneurs, and we know that Black business and creation of it is, you know, is important. They said $3 million. There's also a $300 million shortfall in the city budget. You know, they were able to build this housing that we just announced the other day because I was voted on a levy. That was a different pot of money. We'll see if this $3 million appears. The mayor says she got $100 million for Black community, supposed to unveil next month. Again, a $300 million budget. We'll see how they can pull that out the sky. But I think that, you know, for city council members, you especially members that aren't outside of Sawant or Morales, it's like, man, you know, you got to get out there. You really got to get out there. Yeah. It would be interesting, like I said, if somebody, and maybe they have been meeting with businesses. I mean, send back some more businesses that you talk to. Everybody is Zoom with you. You know, like I said, you can talk to Taste of the Caribbean. You can talk to the Pickets over at the Postman. You can talk to.
Well, you're giving them some great suggestions, but I think even too, what Councilmember Mosqueda is saying there too is even just recognizing, like, we understand that even just talking to these coalitions is not enough. And once we open back up, we're going to have another process to really begin to open it up for other people who want to be a part of this discussion and a part of this process. And I think that's the key. I think what you're talking about here is how can a regular citizen be in that process, be included in the process, and also, it's not the same.
Public comment is an engagement.
And also, how can any of these council members create a process that allows for open communication and real dialogue to happen so that they can respond to the comments? It's not just a one-off. I think so much of what we're talking about here is creating some serious depth of relationship building across any sector, like just creating the relationship so that these council members can actually represent the people that they're supposed to represent.
Yeah, I want to see people talking to PTAs, man. I want to see people talking to teachers. I want to see people talking to, you know, Seattle Public Schools administrators. I mean, because Black people are failing there. You know, it's miserably. I want to see people talking to the business sector, talking about, you know, what's going on. I mean, I'm big business. We need business. Yeah. I want, you know, and I think that one thing, the problem with KCN is that, you know, how do we put something in place today to address the pipeline of when Black students are graduating, they're going onto these career paths from the colleges that 6, 7 years from now, they have these high paying jobs that they can afford to live in the city. I mean, $42,500 for a household in Seattle is crazy. And again, it's good that, you know, there's programs out there as far as land transfer. That's, man, great. But you know what I'm saying, who are you talking to that's every day out there, you know what I'm saying, that is, as far as like real estate, what programs are out there, or who's already making it happen in the private sector? So there's the government sector, and government's not the answer for everything.
Right.
You know what I'm saying? There's the private sector that's out there. What about NARAB, National Association of the black, basically, realtor organization? Have you talked to them? You know, what are some of the biggest barriers as far as people without people going and purchasing homes, which leads to generational wealth? I mean, we have to look at things that are sustainable. It has to be like, okay, what we do here today, in this moment, in our city, we might reap the results from here years from now, but that trajectory, you know, it's changed the trajectory and the outcome of the black community. And that's why I talk about, man, higher wages. This is where we talk about home ownership. This is where we talk about better education, all those things. And there's other points as well. Those are my big three. There's other points as well, but those are the things that will change the trajectory, because things that are funded can get defunded. We see that. We need actual systemic change to change the trajectory of black people here in the city.
Yeah.
And to be able to do that, that's good. You talk to, you know, organizations and things like that, but I think also have to talk to private sector, especially private sector when you're talking about, income gap, income inequality, and you're talking about property and real estate and things like that.
Yeah, because
and
so much
business.
of this actually, so much of these transactions happen in the private sector. So you really do have to incorporate that into your strategy. And I think what you're really describing is a lot of the work that's going to be happening as time goes on, when you start thinking about, okay, what does reimagining policing look like? How do you bring those resources into the community? This is exactly what we're talking about. So much of it is about having those foundational building blocks that will allow regular community members to be a part of that process, but also really encouraging, again, those stronger relationship characteristics and building characteristics with council members and the rest of the public. So I think that you're so right here, and you're outlining literally, for me, things that I have in my mind about the next phase of all of this, you know, in terms of opening it up for community and bringing in, you know, more ideas to start figuring out how we redirect those resources. So I think you're absolutely right here. More people to talk to.
So we're moving on here. We have Council Member Peterson. Peterson, can you put that up on the screen? All right, so Peterson has met with Reverend Harriet Walden, Mothers for Police Accountability, Nate Miles, Breakfast Group and Black Clergy, Michelle Merriweather of the Urban League, Lance Randall, Seed Seattle, Dom Davis, Community Passageways, Les Liggins, Community Passageways, Jebediah Gardner, it says Garner, but I'm pretty sure they meant to say Gardner. Yeah, Gardner Group, Andre Taylor, Not This Time, Tati Swan, the Everyday March, Nikita Oliver, Creative Justice, Gurmai Zahalai, King County Council Member, Sean Scott, former District 4 candidate, and Police Chief Carmen Best. So what do you think of this list right here?
Well, I want to add here too, he said, I'm copying my colleague Malik Davis, who works with Councilmember Peterson on public safety issues. Yeah. He told me to tell you that he's a Garfield head.
Yeah, so, yeah,
he said, being a Rough Rider myself, he has no comment on that. Look.
Yeah.
Who are the Rough Riders?
That's exactly. Some school up in North Bend. But Malik, Bulldog, what's happening, man?
Well, once again, a comprehensive list to me. I mean, again, when you start bringing in, you know, people from the Everyday March, they're not an organization. They're regular people who get together and march every day towards these issues, right? So, I mean, when this is an opportunity for regular folks to join in on this movement. None of this is a closed door, I don't think at all, in terms of a lot of these organizations. They have opportunities for regular community members to come in, volunteer, be a part of the vision. So much of that really happens, on a one-on-one basis. So I like that Tati was there. You know, once again, it just, as we're going through these lists, I don't know, I'm seeing some little bit of diversity, not much, but some.
All right, that's what's up. But, you know, for me, again, I want to see what business owners, not organizations, what people are responsible for profit and loss, what people that are having to lay people off, who's not, we know our community's not getting the PPP and all these kind of things. Who are you talking to as far as business owners, right? Who are you talking to as far as, you know, these gaps, the wage gap that's out there? Who are you talking to? There's so many black people that are out there as far as real estate. I see Jebediah Gardner on there though. That's one, so at least we've seen that.
Yeah.
You know, who's out there. Man, what school principals have you talked to? We talk about, you know, with Garfield High School. We talk about Rainier Beach High School. What about Beanie Middle School, Washington Middle School? I mean, because if you really want to understand, if you're going to go, you're going to make policy and everything else, I'm not knocking anybody that somebody's going to talk to as many people as possible. This is what we want them to do. As council members, I'm just talking about the intricacies, the diversities of it. Also, what I haven't seen here, and something that's near and dear to our community, is elder groups. Well, somebody met with
they met with Diane. One person.
Who met with, I think.
One person met. That was Andrew Lewis.
Council member Lewis met with the Central Area Senior Center.
Yeah.
Because, you know, seniors are also near and dear to our community. It's on it. It would be good to see people meeting with early childhood, meaning people like Mike who run daycares or things like that. I mean, if you really want to be comprehensive, and I'm not saying that these different organizations like King County Equity Now, which you're a part of, can't give a totality picture, but that's also your picture from your organization. D-Crime is their picture from their organization. The black community is not monolithic. And, you know, I mean, ideally, whoever has some of the best ideas, we would hope that the best ideas went out, but we should hear as many ideas that are out there. Me personally, like I said, I'm just a big on the big three: income inequality, property, which is generational wealth, and education. So we'll move on here to the last one. This is Councilmember Strauss. I gotta give Councilmember Strauss some props. You know, he called me on my birthday.
Nice.
I was like, who's this? He was like, this is Council. And also, my teacher, Barbara Nilsson, my elementary school teacher, who was just transformational to me. I talk about her a lot here on the show. Decades later, at Summit K-12, which oddly enough is the same building that's being occupied right now with NAM and everything else. Barbara Nilsson was my teacher, and Barbara Nilsson was also Councilmember Strauss's teacher.
Wow.
Big shout out to that, man. I love the teachers.
Here we go.
You know what I'm saying? So, Dan Strauss on the screen, please. As is customary with district representatives, I have supported the work of my colleagues who represent our historically black neighborhoods in their neighborhood engagement in that regard. In District 6 specifically, I worked with Justice for Black Lives and additionally provided them with an uncensored, self-directed portion of my District 6 town hall. My office has also communicated with King County Council member Gurmai Zahalai. Man, this guy gets around, huh? The Community Police Commission, also known as the CPC, Community Passageways, ConvergeMedia. You see, I thought he was calling me for my birthday. No, actually, they invited me to talk. So, King County Equity Now, we talked about the protests, but King County Equity Now, Decriminalize Seattle, Choose 180, and the King County Department of Public Defense. As you experience when presenting to City Council, I often follow up directly with panelists. This is true, he did follow up with me. To continue conversations that do not have enough time in a formal council setting. It's important to me that leaders such as yourself, leader now, thought I was just a media guy, have a direct line, which is why I called you and continue our conversation, provided my direct phone number. Please feel free to call anytime. You know we might just call you Councilmember Strauss. Are you able to connect a call over there, all you? No. Yeah, you can. We will call you today, Councilmember. So he said something important here. As is customary in with district representatives, I have supported the work of my colleagues who represent our historically black neighborhoods and their neighborhood engagement. So here's the only problem with that. And I appreciate your honesty right here. And basically what he's saying is like, you know, we support what the council member from that district supports. right? And so this would be like, what I read this as is Councilmember Strauss might support what Councilmember Morales is supporting, because it's like, hey, that's your district, you know, I'm gonna talk to people and everything, but we're gonna support what you support. So, and this, I'm not saying anything about Councilmember Morales or anything, but what if people have a bad council member? You know what I'm saying? You just supporting whatever the next person is saying is good for the district. I mean, we get a lot of people in one term. You know what I'm saying? So just because somebody's there and that's their district doesn't necessarily mean you can put it on autopilot. I think that in a lot of different legislation and things at City Hall, that's probably like automatic. You know, you bring up something, hey, you know, and District 3 wants to do this, or District 2 wants to do this, or whatever, you know, we want to pass through City Council an ordinance or whatever it's for that district. I could see how somebody in District 6 would be like, hey, you know your district best, no problem. But this is supposed to be the big moment. This is the moment to change the trajectory of black people forever. And they say, you can't just take people's word for it, council member. I mean, you know, I appreciate it. This guy is very sincere, you know, and at least in this communication with me, I would say that this is good. And I think, you know, protocols to protocols in City Hall and City Council and everything else. But it's like, there's nothing wrong with expanding your listening session. I mean, clearly you guys see people are bringing the listening to your house. You know what I'm saying? So there's absolutely nothing wrong with talking as well with people in these districts. This is a big moment in our city. And again, this is one of the drawbacks. You see what Councilmember Strauss says right here is because we're in districts and not citywide, so a council member can really go their whole tenure and never really hear from people in another district.
Yeah, and that to me is what presents some of the biggest issues here with the districts. And in general, I think you're so right, because for me, so much of this is just about being informed, right? It's really about informing yourself as a council member as to what is going on in your city. And yes, there's a part of me that understands that districts provide a very specific look into that particular district. But as we see in Seattle, unfortunately, a lot of these districts are not diversified enough to really be able to understand the issues of all people in the city. So they're only listening to, maybe some of these districts have, you know, more elites, right? The income level is higher. And so their perspectives, or maybe what they want, it may be a little bit different, but they're not getting a wide variety of perspectives in some of these districts. So I think it's really about being informed.
Right. And so who we haven't heard from, and like I said, I'm not knocking them, the council members we're just one media company, actually one of the smallest and newest in the city. So I'm not offended that we haven't heard back. But we haven't heard back from Councilmember Herbold. We haven't heard back from Councilmember Juarez. Juarez's office did email me back saying that they wanted to speak on phone, but that hasn't happened. We haven't heard back from Council President Gonzalez. And we haven't heard back from D3, our district, D3, the Central District, Shama Sawant. We haven't got any feedback from Councilmember Sawant. And of course, you know, I definitely want to know. That's the district my mama live in, the neighborhood, Garfield, our legacy, our traditions. That's the district that William Gross, almost 140 years ago, bought those 12 acres of land from Henry Yesler and set up in the Central District. So we definitely would be great to hear from Councilmember Shama Sawant as to who in the Central District, in your district, District 3 or citywide, are you meeting with that's crafting this policy that you're creating down there in City Hall and City Council? I mean, we don't have any information, so right now it's just a guess.
Yeah, it'd be great to know that. And again, I think that there's been higher levels of communication from Sawant's office, and then sometimes, like you said, maybe get busy, you know, doing other things. So I'm really hoping that we do hear back.
I want to see, like, for all the city council members, how many business owners are you meeting with? How many people? Because like government money is one thing, and funding and programs is one thing. How many people are out there who are operating a business when the rubber meets the road, you know what I'm saying, who are worried about profit and loss? and things like that? How many business owners are you talking to? How many school principals are you talking to, or different parent organizations, like 100 black parents? How many people are you talking to like that are out there? How many people that are, like I said, in real estate and in wealth development? How many wealth development experts? What's her name? She does all the panels over there.
Oh, you're talking about Jennifer Ness.
Well, okay, so there's a Jennifer Ness that's there, and then there's
we have a lot of financial experts.
I mean, I don't see Black Dot on here, and what's crazy on nobody's list. And Black Dot every Monday, they do Mastermind Mondays where they meet with entrepreneurs from all across the city, and they bring in experts on building black wealth in Seattle. But believe me, if black people's income went up in this city, a lot of different things disappear as far as problems. So it'd be interesting to see what city council members are meeting with people who are experts on developing black wealth and changing these situations that are out there. I think that organizations people are meeting with, no problem. I think that's important, and I'm glad that there's organizations that are on the ground and, like people like to say, been doing the work. And when it's time for somebody to talk to, they're here. Right. Whether it's Africatown, whether it's community passageways, Choose 180, we can go, on and on. It's a very long list of organizations that are out there. I just think that the city council would do themselves and the city a disservice if they don't hear from more voices, especially around business development, income inequality, as far as how black people can build generational welfare, but through home ownership and addressing education. Because education, again, black students are doing very bad in Seattle public schools.
I agree with you wholeheartedly here. Oh, definitely expand the scope, por favor.
Expand the scope. All right. So they told me we got to take the break out, so we're going to jump right into this. We're way over time, but I think it's a good conversation that we've been having right here. We got off to a little bit of a late start. A lot of you guys who've been hanging with us for a while, you remember ConvergeMedia launched a show called Vote Black Love 2020, and this was back before COVID and everything, and COVID sidetracked everything and protest. But we came up with a show called Vote Black Love 2020 because it's election season, and we think that's a great thing to vote on, and it's all about talking to couples, and telling their story. We want, as you guys, I know a lot of what we do as far as the content we produce is we want to be able to show positive and uplifting stories about our community. So we've got a new show that's coming, we're relaunching, called Vote Black Love 2020. Here's a little trailer that Carlos Imani put together. So what we're doing right now is we're going into production for the show. And I mean, because I'll be honest with you, going into election coverage is going to be kind of crazy this year. Who knows how it's going to look. We want to give people in the community a different outlet, but it's still kind of a play on voting. But people can go to the website, go to wherewecconverge.com/voteblacklove. And we're going to be, you can go there, you can nominate a couple, put some stuff in there, and we're going to be shooting these segments.
I love this idea. I remember when we were first, I mean, there's so many ideations, right? So many strategy sessions of just like, what kind of shows, and this is a great one. For me, I'm so excited to see some of these couples. I'm looking forward to it all.
All right. You gonna be nominating some people?
You know what? There are some couples that I'm inspired by. There's a couple that come to my mind, two right off the bat that come to my mind. So you'll see. You know, I might have to fill out the form.
The very first, I personally shot the pilot episode for this show, and clearly I'm not as good of an editor as Bobby Stills, but I shot the very first episode with the Pickett's, with Devon and Kiana Pickett, who own the Postman. And so Carly Simani, who's the executive producer for Vote Black Love, I'm sure he's gonna blow what I did away. So again, you can go to wherewecconverge.com/vote black love, and you can nominate a couple that you would like to see on the show. And before we get out of here today, you know, I thought I'd put a little melanin magic in it. But on the sports thing, you know, I'm a diehard Mariners fan. The Mariners are getting beat up right now, you know what I'm saying? But, you know, this love ain't going nowhere. But I thought that it was such an amazing moment. This is back in 1990, where Ken Griffey Sr. hits a home run, and then Ken Griffey Jr. right behind him hits a home run. And it was just an amazing moment, this father and son, and it's part of our Melanin Magic.
Fly ball sliced to fairly deep left center field. Devo White back to the track, the wall, makes the leap, and the old man has done it. One more time, fly away.
Run trot, yes, yeah.
3-0 pitch is hit deep into left center field, and Bishop will look up, and father and son have hit back-to-back home runs. My, oh my, etch that in your baseball history book.
Not to be outdone, says Junior. His 20th of the year.
Junior can also hit a fastball. This one's away, and he shows a little more strength. He hits it to the opposite field. Bichette goes back, but you can see that's well over the left field wall.
Well, that brought Marcel Latchman, the pitching coach for the Angels, out in a quick hurry. They say it was measured at 388 feet, and there's the the smile of a proud dad, but he's still got to get on him a little bit.
Well, and I think the great thing about the Griffeys, it's not like a father-son relationship. They're more like brothers.
Yes, indeed. It was something to see. And a very pleasant good evening, everybody. This is Dave Niehaus at Anaheim Stadium. The back-to-back home runs by father and son, it may never be seen again. And Joe Simpson had a chance to sit down and talk with both about that historical moment last night.
Little history made here last night at the Big A with father and son going back to back, and with all the emotions that's been racing through you two guys the last 2 weeks, it seems like it couldn't get any better, but last night it did. How'd that feel?
It felt real good. You know, after I hit mine, I was hoping that he got a good pitch to at least, you know, try to drive it somewhere. And the way the ball was jumping out of this ballpark, if he got it up in the air, he had a shot at getting it out of there. And when he hit it, I said, yeah, it's out of here.
Let's look at the swings one more time. Junior, I want your description of your swing quickly.
Quick. Look at it, head on the ball.
All right, Dad.
Mine is just a little quicker.
Quicker?
I just hit the ball a little further, and, you know, I get out the box a lot quicker. You stand 5 feet in front of the box.
Experience in youth. It's always an argument over which is more valuable, the strength of youth or the experience of the veteran player. Which one came through last night, Junior?
Mine.
But whose went farther?
Mine.
It is still unbelievable.
All right, rest in peace, Dave Niehaus, man. But you know what? That was a special father and son moment right there with the Griffeys. It's got a whole lot of melanin magic, and you know, they're the only father and son to hit back-to-back home runs in Major League Baseball.
Man, you gotta love. Well, for me, I'm gonna tell you right now, I was loving every moment of that, and you gotta love when the dad tried to throw him under the bus. My mom was a little quicker. You gotta love that.
It reminds me of me and little O out around here now, because before O would be like kind of timid around the studio. Now he's like, get out the way,
Right.
man. You know what I'm saying? Let me edit this. But at the end of the day, the experiences, you've been experienced, But yeah, we just wanted to share that moment, and also sending a lot of positive vibes, man, down there to the M's. I really missed baseball, and not even so much the strikes and balls and hits. I really missed the experience of taking my kids to the ballpark. So this has been a unique season, not only for myself but for everybody here in the Emerald City. So
Yeah.
Yeah. Any notes for today?
No, not for me. It's about that time.
Long show today.
Yeah.
It was well worth it. Good conversation.
I know. Thanks for sticking with us through our technical difficulties, guys.
Yeah, I think they already forgot all about it.
Good
to be
stuff.
honest with you. So we'll be back at 11 a.m. tomorrow here on the Morning Update Show. I want to again thank you to everybody for your continued support and growth of this platform. Please remember to tag and share this show with a friend. We'll also keep you updated as we hear more from the City Council about their decisions, these big decisions that are being made, policy that's being crafted to impact our community. Until tomorrow at 11 a.m., peace.
Lift every voice and sing till earth in heaven ring with the harmonies of liberty. Let our rejoicing rise as the listening skies. Let it resound loud as the rolling sea. Sing a song full of the faith that the dark past has taught us. Sing a song full of the hope that the present has brought us. Facing the rising sun of a new day begun. Let us march on till victory is won. Sing it again now. The victory is won. Victory is won.